It is now 9:03, and it is time to start our meeting. Is everyone on the left wing ready to go? Everyone on the right wing ready to go?
They're working on my computer, but y'all go ahead.
Okay, they're working on Charlotte's computer, but we will go ahead and get started. Johnny Silvas is not going to be with us today, so we'll just try and muddle through without him. I would like to ask Phil Neighbors, if he would, to come forward and lead us in an invocation.
Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful morning that we're enjoying today. We're grateful for so many privileges that we normally take for granted, so we ask that you make us mindful today of our free country, of our great state, and Lord, of this wonderful city that you allow us to live and work in. Today, as we come to do the business of the city, the business of the citizens, and your business here in this place, we pray for patience, for wisdom, and for understanding, and for your spirit to be in this place. We thank you for all of those who donate their time to serve our city on council. We thank you for the staff who dedicate their time and their lives and vocations to serving you in this place. So we give you thanks for all of these things. For our recent rains, Lord, we always give you thanks and praise and ask for continued blessings in this area. We now give this meeting to you in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. And to help me with the pledge this morning will be Mr. Tristan Smith, who is a student from Trinity Lutheran Church. Good morning. We'll start with the American, and you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Let's have a picture here. Thank you, buddy. Do have a couple of proclamations to read this morning. First will be the Fire Prevention Week proclamation, and I need Thomas Truitt to come forward, please, sir. Hello, Brother Truitt. Good morning, sir.
Hello, Mayor.
Let me read this proclamation, and then we'll let Thomas make a speech. Fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas fire departments in the United States responded to nearly 400,000 home fires in a single year, and whereas San Angelo residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes, and whereas the fire service of San Angelo is dedicated to the safety of life and property from the devastating effects of fire, and they are joined by other emergency service providers, businesses, safety advocates, schools, and service clubs. Now, therefore, I, Dwayne Morrison, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the San Angelo City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 6th through October 12th, 2013, as Fire Prevention Week, and call upon the people of San Angelo to participate in fire prevention activities at home, work, and school, and practice home fire safety, especially this week, which commemorates the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which killed 250 persons, left 100,000 homeless, and destroyed 17,400 buildings. You have the microphone, sir.
All right.
And there's your proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Thank you, Mayor and City Council and City Administration. We, as said in the proclamation, this is the time of year when we observe Fire Prevention Week because of the anniversary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. This year, the national theme for Fire Prevention Week is Prevent Kitchen Fires. They encourage you to visit the NFPA's website at FPW, that's for Fire Prevention Week, FPW.org, And the rest of their message is get cooking with fire safety. Fire safety is not just an individual effort of our office, of the San Angelo Fire Marshal's office. It's a community effort because of the devastating effects that the Great Chicago Fire had in 1871, and the observation began in 1911 for an annual observance of Fire Prevention Week. Communities have come together to work in unison to prevent fires and save those lives and property that's was so dramatically demonstrated as a loss in 1871. So with our office, we have several representatives. We have the Fire Marshal, Ross Coleman, and Inspector Investigator Carla Steppe. There's the two that go out and do many of our programs during Fire Prevention Week, and actually starting this week is Randy Hanna and Brent Donahoe. They're here in attendance today. And also helping us is Clint Denson with the Fire Marshal's office. So we have us, then we have the San Angelo Fire Department. Chief Dunn's in the room, and Assistant Chief Ferris, they're here. And they supply manpower and equipment to help make our demonstrations at the schools very meaningful to those students. We like to focus on those that are young, because if we can educate them early on the fire prevention responsibilities, then that's a lesson they can take with them the rest of their lives. But also working with us is from Goodfellow Fire Department. They help with bringing a representative from the National Fire Protection Association, Sparky, and they help provide that. But without the assistance from the Goodfellow Fire Training Academy, that still wouldn't be happening. We have a representative from the Fire Academy today, and that's Tech Sergeant Mathis back there. So where do we present these? We present them at the schools. San Angelo Independent School District works with us. The private schools in San Angelo work with us. And to encourage the fire prevention poster participation, the San Angelo Rotary Club sponsors plaques and recognizes the first place winners at their luncheon. But that judging will happen this evening with the safety committee from the Rotary Club. So thank you for the proclamation, and let's all think of fire safety and prevent kitchen fires. Thank you.
That'll work, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Let's let him take a picture.
Oh, okay.
Should we let the rest of them make speeches too? Let's move on. I would like for Renee Peckham to please come forward. And we have another proclamation here. Good morning, ma'am. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
We have another proclamation here. It's to the Desk and Dairy Club, and Ms. Peckham is the president of said club. So I would like to read this proclamation. It says, whereas the Concho Valley has an ever-growing community of energy industries that support the local economy, and whereas these companies provide essential employment opportunities for the citizens of this area, and whereas the contributions of these companies improve the quality of our everyday lives, and whereas we recognize and sincerely appreciate these energy industry companies, therefore I, Dwayne Morrison, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2013 as Energy Industry Appreciation Month in San Angelo, Texas, and urge all citizens to support and recognize our energy industry companies.
Thank you very much.
You've got the,
okay, thank you.
You've got the speaker, ma'am.
My name is Renee Peckham, and I'm the president of the Desk and Derrick Club of San Angelo. And I do recognize that the words energy industry are difficult to say together too many times. But on behalf of the Board of Directors of the DDCSA, I want to thank City Council and Mayor for this proclamation. We appreciate it very much. And I'll just tell you just a little bit about the club and what we're going to be doing this month. The Desk and Derrick Club of San Angelo is a vibrant club of men and women in the energy industry and related fields. The only organization of its kind in the Concho Valley, it exists to advance the professional development of its members and to educate the public about the energy industry. The mission of the club is to foster a positive image of this industry to the community by highlighting the positive contributions of everyday life. The DDCSA is an affiliate of the National Association of Desk and Derrick Clubs, which is comprised of 7 regions in the United States and 59 clubs. Just yesterday, we were informed that the San Angelo Club, our club, has won its 2013 Special Achievement Award for outstanding work for the energy industry. The name Desk and Derrick was selected many years ago to illustrate the flow of information from the derrick to the desk. And I thank you very much. What you're going to be seeing in the newspaper and on broadcast are some indications of the positive contributions of the energy industry. For example, if you're wearing shoestrings today on your shoes, those are petroleum-based, as well as many other things in our lives, plastics, etc. So you will be seeing in the newspaper and some PSAs in radio some of these contributions, and really, whenever you see them, I think you're going to be surprised about exactly how the energy industry impacts our daily lives. I thank you very much on behalf of the Desk and Derrick Club of San Angelo and the ADDC as well. Thank you.
And since I failed to sign this, may I sign this and make it official? Thomas, may I sign yours too, sir? Thank you, ma'am. Let's get a picture here, please, if you would allow it. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. I didn't say the signature would be readable, but it is signed now anyway. Thank you very much. And now we move on to the public comment section of our agenda. Let me read this, and then we will allow public comment. The council takes public comment in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the council at this time. The council may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. On public hearing items, public input will be received on each item immediately following the council discussion and prior to any action on the item. Each member of the public shall make the remarks from the podium and begin by stating their name. Remarks by each citizen will be limited to 3 to 5 minutes unless waived by a council member for all speaking on that matter. No individual will be allowed to speak more than once on any one subject until every citizen wishing to comment has done so. So at this time, we will first take comment from the public. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to make any statement or bring anything forward? If you do, please come forward at this time. Good morning, Mr. Bastardo. If you would, please, sir, say your name, and you have the floor, sir.
Good morning. My name is Richard Bastardo. My volume is stuck high. I don't need these things. I'm a former city councilman, a former planning commissioner, a former member of the board of directors at the appraisal district, and I'm a former member of the board of directors at HUD. What I want to start out, Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. It's been a long time since I've been in this building, okay? 12 years, okay? A little rusty. Not nervous, rusty. Mr. Mayor, City Council, first of all, I'd like to see if you would consider moving from the consent agenda, item number 3 and 4. And I guarantee I won't stay long, just a couple questions. You say that later or what?
I was waiting for you to continue.
Okay, all right. You read exactly what I've read. Council takes public comment on all items in regular agenda. Public input on regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Now, the one I want to talk about while I'm at the podium is when you get to your regular agenda, it's executive closed session. Now, when you get to the discussion part of it, I won't be able to speak on it because you do it behind closed doors in executive session. So can I speak now?
No, sir.
Okay.
What you need to do is to go back to number 18 on follow-up and administrative issues, where the agenda said consideration of and possible action on matters discussed in executive closed session if needed.
Okay.
So there is a point on the agenda for you to speak to that, Mr. Pistardo.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll sit down and I'll see you later.
Yes, sir. I have no problem in moving 3 and 4 to the irregular agenda and discussing it there. All right, Mr. Pistardo?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Is there anything else from the public? Any other comments you wish to be made on anything? Mr. White?
Yes, sir. Carl White, Parks and Recreation Director. We'd like the City Council to know, and especially the public to know, about our rededication event this Saturday at 10 o'clock at Jaime Padron Memorial Park. That park was previously known as Rio Vista Park. It was recently renamed Jaime Padron Memorial Park. That event will be this Saturday at 10 o'clock. We're going to celebrate the recent renovations, which included 2 playgrounds, a pavilion, restrooms, walkways, and just a general spruce of the park. The event will have short words from a few folks, including the family and some law enforcement officials. We'll do a ribbon cutting. We'll do a balloon release, and we're going to have some concession food there, hot dogs, popcorn, chips, sodas. And then we're going to do what we're calling a law enforcement showcase. With so many law enforcement officials out there, we figured it'd be a good opportunity, especially with the youth groups that'll be out there, to show off law enforcement personnel, equipment, and different groups, letting our youth know that it's an excellent career to consider for their future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Is there anyone else from the public that wants to approach, have something you want to say, or comment on anything? This is your chance. If not, I will go to the council, and I would like to start this off by moving or by omitting something. And this is from the executive closed section, and it is the second thing on here. I asked for this last week. It is section 5510741. It begins to deliberate the evaluation duties of the city manager. I would like for that to stay. I would like to omit and remove the following statement. To deliberate the discipline of a public officer, being a city council member, for code of conduct and code of ethics violations, and to hear a complaint or charge against an officer, being a city council member or employee. I would like to remove that last part, leaving only the deliberation and evaluation of duties of the city manager. So if you would please, Ms. Ramirez, remove that from our executive. We will not be discussing it. Is there anything else from the city council that you would wish to bring forward or move or discuss at this time?
From the consent agenda?
From the consent agenda, or any proclamations or anything?
I would like to move number 8.
Number 8, okay. Ms. Farmer?
I need to remove for discussion 2, 3, 4, and 7, and you'd already covered for Mr. Bastardo, but 2, 3, 4, and 7 is what I have.
Look like we got 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 that has been removed from the consent to be discussed on the regular agenda. Is there anything else? Anyone else have any desires?
Number 6 also.
We have number 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like that the consent agenda will consist of number 1, number 7, and number 9.
Well, on number 1, I have a question about the minutes.
We need to pull number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 6, number 7, and number 8. So it looks like we have number 5 and number 9 under consent agenda. Will someone please move to approve this before we talk about all of them?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion to approve. I have a second. This will be number 7 and number 9 of the consent. All the rest of it has been moved to regular agenda. Any further council discussion? Discussion from the public? If not, I will take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? It will then pass 6-0. Might also say that Daniel Valenzuela is in Amarillo today. He is representing the city on the Porch to Plains board. There were some things that we needed to have representation there, and decided he would be the one that should go. So that's the reason that Michael is sitting in this chair. Let us now then go to number 1. And Ms. Farmer, I believe you pulled this. Would you elaborate, please?
Yes, I was looking at the minutes of the regular agenda, and in looking at the very bottom of the page, I'm reading it as a consensus of the City Council. It was determined the issue would be handled on September 17th. He noted on September 11th that Councilman Farmer prematurely released information regarding the matter to the media. Is that just your statement? I mean, I don't remember. To me, it reads like it was decided that that was indeed right, or this was just a statement, because it was not. That's the way I'm reading it.
I cannot open up my agenda, Nathan. It won't open up. The way this was is that we went into an executive session and we discussed and we decided to accept the investigation that the city manager had done, and by a 6 consensus majority vote, we decided that it would be placed upon the agenda for discussion and full vetting on the 17th of September at the council meeting. Okay. And I made that statement that on the 17th, by a majority consensus of this council, we would discuss it. And it was then put on the agenda, and we did discuss it.
Majority consensus that it would be discussed, not that that's indeed, in fact, what happened. I just wanted to clarify that, because I
can't open it up. Technical difficulties. Give me just 1 minute, please. You got it going now?
The agenda. Get popped from the agenda over to the.
Are you satisfied, Ms. Farmer?
no, I'll just make my exception to it.
Okay, well, do I have a motion to approve number 1? Do I have a motion to approve number 1?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor of approving consent item number 1, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, we have a 4-2. All right. Consideration, this is number 2 on consent, consideration of awarding HGAC quote VM0413 for 2 ambulance box remount service in the amount of $72,900, and authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary related documents submitted by Assistant Operations Director Patrick Ferris. Mr. Ferris, would you identify yourself, and you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Scott Ferris, Assistant Chief with the Fire Department. Each year we have allocated $210,000 for ambulance refurbishing. And what we do there is we replace the chassis underneath these boxes. And they go back to Houston, and they start at the top and go all the way to the bottom and replacing all the items inside the ambulances that get used and phrased over the 6-year period that we have them. We had purchased 2 chassis back on March 5th of this year. And those ambulances are now the chassis are here, and they're just waiting to go get refurbished, to get the boxes taken off of them, put on the new chassis.
Mr. Ferris, I love the work that you guys do. It's outstanding. The city is indeed fortunate to have such qualified folks. My question, the only reason I'm questioning this, is for 2 ambulance box remounts. Okay, but what does it take on top of that $72,900 to furbishing them out? Is this $72,900 the inclusive, but if you go back in and retrofit the supplies, what does that cost? Is there an addition?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we replace all the monitors that we monitor heart rhythm and stuff with. All those are computerized, so we replace all those equipment that are inside of the ambulance as well. The refurbishing, the $72,000 you see here is just for the ambulance itself, to take the old box off and put a new box on. There is still $156,000 that's out there that $72,000 will come out of. The rest of that, the funds there will be used to replace equipment that's inside the ambulance to refurbish
Okay,
it.
I didn't
Yes, ma'am.
understand that, so I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My question was, I believe you said in this presentation that you do this once a year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We replace or refurbish 2 ambulances a year. Yes, sir.
So just on last year's budget, on March the 5th, two chassis were approved, and so here we are 6 months later, trying to get 2 more in this year's budget, current year's budget. Can you explain why that is?
The 2 chassis that were bought on March 5th are just that. They're just the chassis. They don't have a bed on them or anything. We take our ambulances, then we take the 2 that we're using right now on the floor, and we drive them to Houston, and we'll meet up with those 2 chassis down there that we've already purchased. The $72,000 that you're seeing here is for taking the old box off, rewiring all that stuff inside the box, and then refurbishing the box, repainting it, and putting it back onto those chassis that we have purchased.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve number 2 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Moving on to number 3, consideration of jointly awarding RFB W18313A LAS liquid ammonium sulfate bid to Chameleon Industries Incorporated, Mesquite, Texas, and to Penco Incorporated in the total annual combined amount of $41,172 for LAS for water use in the water treatment plant, submitted by Water Utilities Director Ricky Dixon. You have the floor, sir.
My question on item number 3 is, this is for the water treatment plant, and the item that we approved last week was the water treatment plant.
Yes, ma'am.
And number 4, may I cover that one as well? Because it has to do with...
Let me read it. Number 4 will be combined with number 3, consideration of awarding RFBWU 1813B ferric chloride bid to Penco Incorporated, San Felipe, Texas, in the amount of $387,200 annually for ferric chloride coagulant for use in the water treatment plant. Mr. Dixon?
Okay, all of these chemicals we're ordering now, the plant's not built. Where do we store them now? And for how long will they be stored?
We order these as needed. We have on-site storage facilities for the liquid ammonium sulfate and for the ferric chloride. We don't order it all bulk at one time. We just have on-site storage.
Mr. Dixon, this is for the current plant, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's
Yes.
for the current plant.
Right.
Both
This ain't
item
the-
3 and 4.
Yes, ma'am.
They're not for the new treatment plant. Thank
Correct.
you. I have no more questions on the 3 and 4.
Motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion has been made, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. 3 and 4 have passed. We have already done number 5 in the consideration vote. Number 6, consideration of authorizing the city manager to execute the Second Amendment to the interlocal agreement and all related documents with the Concho Valley Transit District, CVTD, in substantially the attached form to provide transit services on behalf of the city of San Angelo, submitted by Finance Director Tina Bunnell. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, council members. Did you have questions?
It wasn't mine, that was Mr. Wardlaw.
Who what?
Oh, I apologize.
Mr. Wardlaw?
We're on item number 6 now.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, does this item have to be considered today and voted on? in my computer. I could not get access to those documents. I don't like to prove any contracts I haven't read.
Okay, that would be.
They wouldn't, neither document would come up on my computer. Anybody else have the same problem? Anybody else try to look at the documents?
Just a moment.
Mine comes up.
Mine's up.
Mine comes up.
I saw it. Mine came up on
Did now, but it didn't this weekend. What about the second one? Is this the entire document right here? Is there quite a bit more? Well, I don't know what to say, but I did try to access them yesterday, and so. Is anybody else read these closely and willing to certify that they're okay?
I move to accept this as presented.
I'll second that.
Any further council discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? This would be number 6. Number 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain, so I haven't read the documents.
Very well. This will be then, did you abstain or say nay?
Nay.
Okay, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 affirm, 1 abstain, and 1 nay. Number 7, consideration of
Mr.
adopt.
Mayor, I'm just a little confused. I'm sorry, when you said number 5 had already been approved, I know that we were approving number 2. Did that include 5?
Number
or-
5 and number 9 were approved on the consent agenda.
Oh, thank you.
Number 7, consideration of adopting a resolution of the City of San Angelo, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with the Concho Valley Transit District, providing for a reimbursement to the city of 80% of cost incurred by city for construction of pedestrian transit access infrastructure improvements pursuant to the Downtown Pedestrian Improvement Plan from New Freedom Project grant funds in the amount of $573,471 with a local match of $143,368 under Project Grant Agreement 51107F7084 between the Texas Department of Transportation and CVTD. Bob Steeman.
Thank you, sir. Was there a specific question, Mr. Wardlaw?
Just like for you to explain it to me.
Okay. This is the New Freedom Grant that was approved by council. I'm afraid I don't have the date the council approved it. However, it's for the ongoing streetscape project in the downtown area from Concho Avenue to basically to the new bus station on North Chadbourne Street. The grant was for $574,000. Our matching funds, if you look at appendix or attachment E of the agreement, we had matching funds of $53,000 in cash and basically $90,000 in kind contribution, which was the engineering design of the entire project.
I think the reason that I didn't recall it is I overlooked that where it said Part 2 of the streetscape. I know that we had quite a bit of controversy getting Part 1 approved, and I'm for the streetscape, but I just didn't read in here where it said that it was Part 2 of the streetscape.
This is Part 1.
It is Part 1?
Yes, ma'am. This is the original, and this grant was granted to the Transit District. Our second New Freedom grant was granted to the city, and then the third, there are actually 3 of them, the third was granted to the Transit District. And that really had more to do with the consultant that got these grants for us, working for the Transit District on 2 out of the 3 of those grants. They were under contract to the Transit District, so it was done through the Transit District.
Motion to approve is presented.
I'd like to ask a question or two.
Okay.
Mr. Steeman, how much money was put in the new bus terminal?
I don't have an answer for that. That actually predated me, and it was not part of this project.
Okay.
We've asked
Well, do we
before.
have a bus line now? Didn't they pull out right after the bus station was built?
Again, sir, I'm not aware.
You don't
of
know that?
Right.
We did, and now they're back.
Yeah, they're there.
Greyhound, and now they're back.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion to approve as presented and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Be a 6-0 vote. Number 8, Marty, I believe you pulled this one. Consideration of adopting a resolution of the City of San Angelo, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute the first amended fire and security equipment and service agreement to amend the term of the original agreement dated October 5, 2010, and said amended term being for 5 years commencing October 5, 2010, and ending October 4, 2015, and certain other related provisions.
I have a possible conflict of interest.
So you are accusing yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Who are we asking?
Ron Lewis.
All right, Ron. Ron, why are we doing this for 5 years? It seems to me if we go out every couple of years, it's going to be a whole lot more economical for the city than going for a 5-year jaunt.
I believe, excuse me, Councilman, I believe it's clear. I think I provided the backup that talked about, this was bid in 2010. So the 5-year goes retro back to the beginning of the term to make it a full 5 years. When we originally bid the project, it was bid for initial 3-year term with 2 1-year options to renew. So what we're doing by amending is, in essence, extending it to only the original life of the contract, which would have been up to 5 years. We got prices at the time. Judge Gilbert, I think I provided in the backup, helped provide all the equipment specifications, and the pricing was done, and I don't have, the several vendors were involved. The reason we want to extend this is just because it is a really good fee structure. The per hour cost is very low for the maintenance and the installation. We've used this on the City Hall and the CD buildings and other, the animal shelter for new construction projects or new equipment. So it saved us money. It keeps consistency between the equipment and the vendor that understands our facilities this time. We'd like to extend that for 2 more years.
Move for approval.
Second that.
We have a motion to approve item number 8. We have a second. I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Self, you may come back, sir. And this, I just realized on these last 2 or 3, I did not ask for public comment. I did make a mistake. So I will ask for it now. If there is any public comment on these things that we have talked about that I failed to ask you, if you had comment, we'll certainly take it now. Mr. Bastardo. And I apologize. That was my mistake.
You don't have to. An apology is not in order. I won't accept one. One of the questions that I was going to ask is, I think Mrs. Farmer already asked it of Mr. Dixon. These chemicals on 3 and 4 won't be used to treat the water coming from McCullough water field?
No, this is for present water right now.
Right.
These are things that need
That's what
right
I'm saying.
now.
I think she asked a question. Okay, now, when it comes to chemicals, and we're talking about water, and bet your dollar I watch these council meetings, do my best to. When that water starts coming down that pipeline, and I hope to God it does, because if it does get here and we start using it somewhere or another, citizens are going to get something in return. But what chemicals are going to be used when you have that treatment?
Mr. Bastardo, I'm
You don't-
going to have to stop this. This is not on the agenda. These
Okay.
2 items are dealing with water today, which
Okay.
is water we get out of
I
Ivy.
got you.
So
I got
anything that's talking about Hickory, we are far premature.
Okay.
So we need to stop.
I got
It's
you.
not on the agenda, sir.
I got you. So it's been answered.
Thank
in
you,
both
sir.
3 and 4.
Is there any other comment on any of these things that I missed? If not, we'll move on to the regular agenda, which is public hearing and comment. This will be number 10, which is presentation on crisis of the Concho towards a conservation plan by the Aqua Squad 213 students, accompanied by Christy Yoker, UCRA Education Director. Bring your group up, please, ma'am. Identify, and you have the floor.
Thank you for having us today. I'm Christy Euchre, Education Director for the Upper Colorado River Authority. This is a group of 10 middle school students who, this is our 4th year to do this. It's a partnership between the San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts, the school district, and UCRA. And they study water locally and beyond, all during the summer. And then they go and represent San Angelo in West Texas in another place. This year it was Philadelphia. And we learn from each other. They have a wealth of knowledge, I think far more than many of us adults many times. So I'd like to let them take the floor and do their presentation. Thank you.
Welcome. Whoever starts, you're on.
Hello, we're Aqua Squad. Thank you, Mayor Morrison and City Council for having us. Today we're going to be sharing some thoughts and ideas on our local water issues.
Us, as the younger generation, have to set the paved stones for the rest of San Angelo to follow.
This is our local watershed, and as Aqua Squad, we're very concerned with the quality and quantity of this area. This chart shows the causes of low dissolved oxygen, and one of the main contributors is human activities. This is the result of our careless decisions.
This is the South Concho River. It has low dissolved oxygen, which is the result of a lot of algae, which is the result of nitrates that are mainly from fertilizer.
This is O.C. Fisher back in 2009. It had a decent amount of quality water.
Now we will move on to 2011, where O.C. Fisher's water quality and amount has drastically decreased.
We have a choice to make. Scenario 1. People contribute to the world's rivers and lakes pollution every day without realizing. We can stop polluting with very cheap and simple steps we can do every day.
If we do not do things like annual cleanups around our rivers and lakes, the outcome will be very bad. This is scenario 2. This would also mean we need to start cutting back on our water usage to conserve the world's water.
Clearly, we have a choice to make. We can have a positive impact on our water. We are doing many things right, such as putting vortex separators along the Concho River, building the Hickory Aquifer Pipeline, and putting stormwater monitoring stations along our rivers and streams.
Some other things we are doing right are having rain barrels and more education. For a rain barrel, you need a downspout to collect water from your roof, a screen so leaves won't get in, and a spigot to water your grass with ease.
Here is a group of Aqua Squad members educating the next generation about our water issues in San Angelo at one of our local schools. Educating them will let them be aware of our water crisis in San Angelo, and it will also help spread the word.
We are doing many things correctly, but we are also doing a couple things incorrectly. One of the things that we need to address is the fracking issue. Hydraulic fracturing, called fracking for short, is a process in which fresh water and chemicals are injected into a well, fracturing the rock and releasing oil and gas. This process can cause the natural gas to leak into nearby water sources, polluting them to the point where it can no longer be used. According to a recent article in the Houston Chronicle, Luke Metzger from Environment Texas said, "The legislator did pass a bill that encourages recycling, but it's weak. As Metzger points out, it's still cheaper to just dispose of frack water in injection wells, so most companies don't have the incentive to recycle." We recently took a trip to Austin so we could get some more ideas about water conservation. In Austin, we met with the Lower Colorado River Authority and the Austin Youth River Watch, and here are some of the ideas that we discussed.
What we can do, water rate restructuring. If we raise the rates of the highest user, we can encourage people to save water, and it would bring more money for the city.
Raise rates? She said raise rates. Jesus.
If we replace our old toilets with newer ones, we can save up to 12,000 gallons of water per year. Our city could have a program to help people replace their old toilets with newer ones.
We also need to encourage people to put in water-wise landscapes and give away free aerators. We will conserve a great amount of water just by doing a simple step.
We need to enforce the water laws. We could have even addresses water one day and odd addresses another. This would be easier to see who should be watering and who shouldn't.
2 new tools that will greatly contribute to our conservation goals are a water use calculator, which I will be pulling up on the screen shortly. Are we able to pull it up? With this tool, you can figure out your family's daily water use and your own. And with using this tool, you can figure out a clear conservation goal and encourage others to do the same.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, they have progressed in water conservation by using a chart to record their water conservation rates. So far, they have reached their goal of 150 gallons of water used per person each day. If San Angelo began to use this method, our water rates would substantially flourish.
The lake levels are getting low. Most people don't know that because Lake Nasworthy always seems full. We need to tell the public that we're getting water to move from Twin Buttes into Nasworthy to reduce the evaporation, but the water is not always let out.
If our actions and everyday activities begin to correspond with the conservation of water, the scene presented in the bottom right corner is very possible. We would like to show you a video that represents what life would be like if an average U.S. family had to live off of 5 gallons of water a day.
Whoa, okay, all right.
Any chance you could, float me?
5 gallons a day. Just the 5.
Thank you for your time and consideration. Do you have any further questions?
Ms. Farmer.
I recognize the work that y'all do and your enthusiasm, and seeing you at various places, especially down on the river, and trying to teach us older folks a few things about better conservation. But I would like to ask Ms. Euchre a question, and possibly with council's permission, they could do this. I'm not sure, but I think when Mr. Hirschfield was here, y'all were going to maybe look at possible ways that the city could give concessions for if they have rain barrels, if they have new commodes or evidence, receipts of. And I was wondering if the students could possibly work up a deal the way that the city could come back to the people and say, this is recommended. If you do XXX, you will receive a certain percentage or something on your water bill. Was that discussed, or was he and I just talking about it?
I think you might have just been talking about it. I think that's something that we definitely wanted to do, to put forward some ideas kind of more officially. And that's one of the things I think that the Aqua Squad is recommending as well, is to delve a little deeper into these options. This is one way for them to get that out there, and hopefully to spark that question that you have. So officially, no, there was never anything officially put forth on that. I think there was discussion.
If the rest of the council would allow, I would love for the group to work on possible concessions and as a project, and bring it back to us at your next scheduled time if council didn't have an objection. That's my request of this group. They do such a wonderful job.
So let me just clarify, to just get a little more information on specific examples.
Well, an example, if a resident can verify that they've installed a new washing machine that's the water energy water saver, if they can show receipt of it and take it to the water department and they make note of it, on their bill, but give us some ideas and what kind of savings that the people have out there. And if they're doing this, all the kids are nodding their heads. They know what I'm saying. If they have the rain barrel and they use the gray water in their home, pouring out various stuff to put water on their plants and stuff outside. Just if you could make up a schedule and suggest to us what rebates could be given on such a matter. Recommend the right. I know that Mr. Hirschfield was talking about that would be great, and it would be an educational thing out there as well to make the citizens aware of how doing something like that, it gives them money back or credit back on that bill. But we just need somebody who's bright and has the initiative and can come up with all of the different ways that people could save on water and possibly get credit for.
Okay.
If Rick, you're nodding your head. I'm just asking if she could call you on what kind of...
Yeah, what we'll do is, it's not uncommon for what some other cities do, and I think y'all might be able to tailor some ideas specific to San Angelo. So when they're ready and have some ideas, we'll coordinate that presentation back to council.
And I think a lot of that is coordination with water utilities, and we'll get going on it. And what do you guys think, since they're tasked with some more work? I would like to just say their first name and where they go to school so you know who these wonderful, bright people are. I can't say enough about Aqua Squad. This is not a part of regular school. This is something they do on their own time, after school. They're all obviously brilliant, and they're involved in everything. So you can imagine their commitment to this. Over here, we have Haley, and she is at Lincoln. And we have Isa, she's also at Lincoln. Scarlett, at Lincoln. We have Ryan, he is at Glenn. Zoe Flores back here, she is at Lee. We have Elizabeth, she's at Lee Middle School. Heba and Sophie are also at Lee Middle School. And we have Wyatt, who's at Glenn, and Robbie, who's at Glenn. So thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I thank you young people very much for your presentation. I've got great hope for our future. Before we get into these zoning changes, would everybody like to take a few minutes,
Please.
5-minute break?
Please.
Let's take a few minutes. If council would start making their way back to the podium, we will go ahead and move on with the meeting. Heard anything?
So nice
Oh my God, I accidentally put this in another language that's not Portuguese, just on my way here. I don't know what it is. It's so, I think
Nope.
it's Italian.
He's taking care of Mr. Bastardo.
Oh, man. No, it's, okay. No, it was French the last time I checked it. Right, contacts. I know. All the stuff from, so why don't I have my number?
All right, everybody seems to be back. Let's go ahead and start our meeting. It is now 10:16, Ms. Ramirez.
Bless you.
We have progressed to number 11. This is the first public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A, zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo. This is Greg Hewling. It is an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Texas, which said Exhibit A of Chapter 12 adopts zoning regulations, use districts, and a zoning map in accordance with the comprehensive plan by changing the zoning and classification of the following property, to wit, an unaddressed 17.91 acre tract located at the southeast corner of the intersection of South Chadbourne Street and Christoval Road. This property specifically occupies the C. Potter Survey 160, Abstract 7278 in southeast San Angelo, changing the zoning classification from light manufacturing, ML, ranch and estates, R&E, and heavy commercial, CH, to light manufacturing, ML district, providing for severability and providing a penalty. Mr. Jeff Hines, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. As Mr. Mayor had said, this is the request to zone 3 zones in accordance with just one to make it a little bit easier on the property owner. We did send 13 notices for this particular request. Here's a little bit of a background on the area. The Concho River runs through over in this area, and then Christoval Road and Chadbourne Street as well, the subject property here, with the city limits just to the southeast. A little bit closer view of the property. The ranch and estate portion is on the southeast corner of the property, and the heavy commercial part is just on the southwest portion of the property. The remainder of the property is zoned light manufacturing at this time. It's currently vacant. The vision plan is calling for industrial development in this area, so this is definitely in accordance with that. Here's a map from you can see who wrote back in favor of this particular request. And if there's any questions, I can answer those at this time if you want me to get into it further.
Rodney, is this your area, sir? Yes, it is. Would you like to take over then and either move to deny or approve?
No, I move that we approve the request as stated.
Second.
Is there any further council questions or comments?
I think that the information we were furnished is more than adequate, so I'm ready to vote.
All right. Are there any comments from the public on this? If not, I think we're ready to vote. All of those in favor of accepting this as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Put a 6-0 on that one, please, ma'am. Next one, number 12, first public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A, zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo. Again, Z1328, Greg Hewling. An ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Texas, which said Exhibit A of Chapter 12 adopts zoning regulations, use districts, and a zoning map in accordance with the comprehensive plan by changing the zoning and classification of the following property, to wit, an unaddressed 5-acre tract located approximately 280 feet south of the intersection of Southland Boulevard and Green Meadow Drive. This property specifically occupies the Community of Faith subdivision, Block 1, Section 1, Lots 1 and 2 in western San Angelo, changing the zoning classification from single-family residential, RS1, to high-rise multifamily residential, RM2 district, provided for severability and providing a penalty. Mr. Hines.
Good morning. We'd sent 5 notifications for this particular request. We did receive 1 in favor and 1 that was in opposition. Here's Just a bird's eye kind of view of the property is in the far southwest part of the community. If you head down Southland, there's a fire station in this area and some other new construction directly behind Sam's and Walmart in this area as well. The property does border the city limits. There is the donut hole that we discussed with the previous council that's currently out of the city limits. The property is currently vacant. Here's the fire station that was mentioned. There's a water tower just north of this property as well. The vision plan is calling for neighborhoods, so as such, high-rise multifamily residential is consistent with that vision plan for the area. Here's a map. You can see who wrote back in favor and opposition to this particular request when we sent those notices. Just a little bit, you can take a look at the collector streets in the area. I can get into this further if you would wish on this particular request as well.
Ms. Farmer, I believe this is yours.
Yes, it is. Located there at the end of Green Meadow in Southland, where it comes around by Bonham School. I don't have a problem with changing the zoning, but I do question just one item. I do not feel if we put it on RS2 that we should limit the number of stories. I don't think we can do that today because we don't have a set of plans to look at whether he was going to do 2 floors or 3 floors. But I certainly encourage a set of apartments there. The catty corner across from, they're putting in a little strip center along Green Meadow in Southland. There've been a few complaints or calls with reference about traffic, and that it's already so congested, especially when school lets out. And I view the traffic as the city's responsibility, the growth in the area, that we do need to look at widening Southland there from Bonham to Sherwood Way, and definitely need to look at Twin Mountain Boulevard and bring it all the way around to Sherwood Way to relieve some of the traffic congestion there. I don't know, didn't see if this is going to have 2 curb cuts, 2 entryways, or 1, and I think we need to see that because it is a heavily populated area. I don't want to slow him down from getting the work done. How is it possible to approve with some conditions that we do not exceed 2 floors, or look at the plans when they come back, because I don't want it to encroach on the single family. It's a great buffer zone, and depending on how the buildings are set on the property, it could be very nice that it didn't view into the backyards of the single family residences and stuff that are there. Is anybody else hearing me or understand what I'm saying or have a problem?
Jeff, can you tell me the difference between, in the public also, between RM2 and RM1?
Right. RM2 doesn't have a maximum height for buildings. There's a maximum floor area for the lot coverage of 1, so conceivably you could cover the entire lot with a 1-story building. You'd have to get variances for the parking, etc. The floor area ratio is a little bit lower in RM1, and it does have a height restriction in it of 35 feet or 2.5 stories, which is the same as the RS1 in the area. Staff had originally recommended that as a compromise to get Mr. Hewling kind of what he was wanting for the apartments, because like Ms. Farmer said, it is a great spot for apartments. It's on a collector street, and it provides a nice transition and buffer. However, we did have some concerns. There's also unit density requirements as well. And the RM2, it's a limit of 35 per acre, and the RM1 is a 25 per acre. So you could look at cutting the traffic down by, assuming everyone that lives in a unit has 1 car on a 5-acre property, by about 50 cars a day if you did the RM1 instead of the RM2.
Perfect. And that's your recommendation?
That's what staff had recommended. Planning Commission did recommend approval of the RM2 by a 5-2 vote.
I move that we accept the RM1.
Do I hear a second?
I guess we need to hear from Mr. Hewling, don't we, as whether or not that is acceptable to him.
Yeah, we need to hear from the public comment. I'm not going to forget public comment again. We do need to hear from the public on the comment, and this is as good a time as any. You have the floor, sir.
Hello, Councilman. My name is Greg Hewling, and I've owned this property for about 10 years. The property is adjacent to Sam's, which is zoned CG. And originally, when I bought the property 10 years ago, I was hoping that the CG zoning would continue on down that street. went to the planning department numerous times and talked to Roxanne Johnson and Kevin Boyd, and they said that the possibility of getting this thing zoned C2 or commercial was pretty nil. So they recommended that I go the RM2, and that met the vision plan. So in turn, I did a feasibility study on the RM2 to see if apartments would work there. Apartments will work there. I need to build approximately 144 units to justify the management and the cost. These would be 3-story units in lieu of 2-story units. The density would be about 29 units per acre instead of 25. It would be similar to the 3-story apartments near ASU that are adjacent to residential also. And I've talked to Rocky Timlin, who owns the property behind it, and his concern is about the height also. There are ways to move off the south boundary 80 or 90 feet to build apartments and have a fire lane go all the way around the buildings and have parking against his property instead of the buildings. I think the RM1 is too restrictive for the property, and I asked for the RM2. I took it to the Planning Commission. They also recommended the RM2, and I explained my reasons for that. Rocky is also concerned about going above 3 stories. I do not need to do that because nobody wants to carry groceries any higher than the 3rd story. So, but I do need to be able to have the RM2 because of the density where I can go above 25 units per acre, and the RM2 is limited to 2.5 stories. I mean, the RM1 is limited to 2.5 stories, and I can't build 2.5. I have to either build two or 3. So I'm asking for the RM2 that the Planning Commission recommended, and also that originally the Planning Department recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewling. Do we have further comment from the public? State your name and you have the floor, sir.
Good morning. Rocky Templin. When I purchased my property, this property was zoned RS1 in approximately 1991. I purchased my property based on that zoning that it was RS1 because that's what I'd planned to do with the 100+ acres that I have adjacent to it. Prestonwood Section 1 has already been completed with 89 residential homes. Sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in planning, zoning, and waiting for the mayor's signature on one plat right now. The RM2 is the most intense residential zoning there is in the city of San Angelo. There are no height restrictions and no square footage restrictions. You could, if you could get by Ross Coleman and some other people, you could build on the entire lot. The Greg, I don't have a problem with Greg or probably apartments. I've been homebuilder here for 30 years. We need houses. My concern is that the RM2 will go with the property and somebody could build a 15-story building right there, which would exceed anything almost except for what's downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any further comments from the public?
Yes.
You're next, ma'am. State your name and you have the floor, sir.
Okay. I'm Bill Wynn, and I was on the Planning Commission, and I'd kind of like to explain why our reasoning as to why we came to this conclusion and accepted the RM2. One is that's what he asked for. Okay, first of all, you kind of look at this area, there's 2 problems. Is the location suitable for apartments? And we judged that it was. We were concerned about the school across the street, and the problem with that would be that if it was just houses, there would still be a lot of houses built in that area. There'd still be additional traffic than what it's got now. And we just didn't feel like that it would hardly be noticeable, the additional traffic. Okay, and then we were dealing with the height problem. Is it suitable location for 3 stories? We're not asking, I mean, we're not talking about 4 or 5, but for 3 stories. One thing, there's a lot of, there's at least 3 3-story apartments in this town that are new apartment complexes, and they don't look too bad. But one thing that happens, it takes a lot more parking space for a 3-story than it does for a 2-story. Like it will take approximately somewhere between 41 and 54 feet for the parking space based on the footprint of a building, okay? The lower floor. Obviously, you cannot get that all in one line against the building. In other words, 9-foot spaces are required. For 1 story, it's the code says 1.5 parking spaces. For 2-story, I mean for 2 bedrooms, it is 1 3/4, and for 3 bedrooms, it's 2 car spaces for each one. So it adds up to quite a bit. And knowing how the fire department, fire marshal's office is, they're going to want to require a drive all the way around these buildings for their fire trucks. And so I think that it would be just naturally a good distance away from the sidelines and the fence before you start building the buildings. I mean, you'd start at the back, 20 foot of parking on one side, and say 25 foot of road, and then another 20 foot of parking against the building. That's, what is that, 65 feet? And then plus 10 feet for fire zone between the parking and the building. So you're going to be a pretty good distance from the back fence, no matter how you do it. And those are going to be required by the city. It'll be monitored pretty carefully. That was our thinking, that the difference between 2-story and 3-story is not significant on these apartments. That's all I have to say, unless you got a question.
Thank you, Ms. Gwynn.
Okay.
Do we have further comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Vera Kirkpatrick, and I live in that area. And I'm very concerned about this because when we moved there 6 years ago, we had the woods, we had the deer, we had everything like we were living in the country, and that's one reason we bought our property there. Now the homes are going up fast and furiously. They pile up a little pile of dirt, and in less than 3 months, people are living in the house. And it concerns me very much. And to have apartments in that area would take away our privacy. There's no way that you can protect people on the 3rd floor from looking in your backyard. And the traffic will be tremendous because already, if you have ever tried to go to Walmart or somewhere in the afternoon when school is letting out, there are cars everywhere. Children are running back and forth. I fear for the safety of the children. I know that they do have guards and all of that, but you know how children are, and they run, and so it scares me. And also I'm concerned about what type of apartments these are going to be. If the boom drops someday from the oil, are these going to go into Section 8s? What's going to happen to these apartments? We have to look to the future and think about that. We moved here to live for the rest of our lives. I hope it's a long time, and I would like to keep our homes private like they are. So that's my concern about it.
Thank you, ma'am. I live out in the north part of town. We have several Section 8 apartments in our area, and I don't have a problem with them, but maybe that's just me.
Hi.
Yes.
Charlotte. I think Charlotte was before me.
Go ahead.
I hear what you're saying about privacy, and I would be concerned if it were 3-story to have that much height, but you can build and arrange if the property is platted or the specs for the housing is right. They could arrange that there are no windows that look into a residential area. That's been done in Southland Annex, the way they have the floor plan situated. It prevents oversea, and then again at Green Meadow Apartments, they're on Green Meadow Drive, their floor plan prevents looking over. Now, Southland is right next to and right up against a single family on RS1, and it's a very, attractive property. Green Meadow is an attractive property. Encino Park is right there on Green Meadow Drive and would be just a few blocks down from this, and they are an attractive, well-built, a pleasing site to see, and they blend very well with the neighborhood. In doing some quick calculations, if he's not allowed to do at least 2 stories at the 5-acre tract, it would only be 175 units, and if it's 25 feet on a 5-acre tract, it's just 125 units, and it has to be at least, like Mr. Euling said, 140, 144 units to make money. A property that's 100 or less, unless it's an extremely high design, it'd be hard to make money. I just feel like there's not a problem with approving the RM2 with restrictions that it does not exceed 2 levels. But then we're waiting on a second for Mr. Fleming, so I'll shut up.
Well,
Mr. Fleming?
Well, the way I'm looking at it, though, why don't we just do RM1 then? That makes it where it cannot exceed the 2 stories. I think that's the argument here. The problem I have with this, Greg and Rocky, is that I understand, Greg, that you bought this property and you hope to change it. What I'm looking at is Rocky bought the property and it was that single-family residential. I think we're actually, in my mind, I think it's a compromise to go from single-family residential to this RS1 or RM1, and I think that we're allowing the apartment complex to come in there, but we're saying that it's not going to be a huge apartment complex that'll be going in there. I think that we are giving some, but we're just not going to give all of it away. And the amount of traffic is what really bothers me. If you look at that overhead shot of the photo, it is directly across the street from the school. And so Bill's from my district. He does a good job. One of the things when he was talking about, when they put a lot of houses in, there'll still be a lot of traffic, but there's not going to be as much traffic as 175 apartment complexes in there. There just would not be the same as, I don't know how many houses you could get in there, but I'd imagine it'd probably be around 50 or so houses, maybe not even 50 houses. So the traffic will not be the same. So my argument is, I want to change this zoning from residential to the it's RM1? It is RM1. Yeah, RM1. I'm in favor of that, and that's the motion. That's the motion that I put forward before us now, accepting the RM1.
All I would add to that is we're not allowed to place conditions on zone changes, unfortunately. So we're not allowed to say we'll give it with this condition. So it's got to be anything that's allowed in there or anything that's not allowed in there.
And that's what Rocky's worried about, and that's what Rocky said, that once it's changed, and I have no doubt that Greg would not be building more than a 3-story, but everybody knows that things happen. Something can happen. Greg sells the property to a new developer, and the new developer says, let's put in a 10-story building here. And the zoning would be in place for him to do that.
Well, did I hear Mr. Hewling say that this thing would not be commercially feasible if he wasn't able to have a 3-story apartment complex on there? And if that's the case, why would we want to change the zoning at all at this point? It's a question I have.
And that's a good argument.
What you're saying, but if he says if we change it and he says that's not going to help him, should we change it at all right now?
And I would be fine with that, just leaving it at residential. I'm trying to make a compromise and trying to help everybody out here a little bit on both communities, the house building and the apartment complex. Because I see that we do need apartment complexes in this town. But if Greg is saying that it cannot be done, then I would be in favor of just leaving it at single-family residential. I would be in favor of that. Charlotte?
Well, with reference to the traffic, the traffic's already bad. I mean, it really is. I live out there, and it's a problem, and I see that our engineering department, we need to be studying about doing something, because we can't turn down every apartment community or whatever because the streets won't handle it. We've got to build those now and do something now to prevent this from happening again, if this were hung up on just traffic. But it's not, but it's a big consideration. I feel comfortable that we meaning the city, they approve the plans. And we can not approve a 3-story plan. We approve the plans, and if we look at where those, if we just had something to show a layout of where windows would be in conjunction with the residential Mr. Templeton's property, I'd feel better about it.
How do you get around, Charlotte, the fact that if we don't allow him to build a 3-story apartment complex, he's saying he doesn't want to build one? Why would we even address the problem? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we ought to get a clarification from him.
Can we ask Greg? So, Greg, are you saying that if we can't do the RM2, that you don't need it?
Right. I would prefer the RM2 over the RM1. I would prefer the RM1 over just residential. I would need to look at the numbers to see if 125 units would be feasible and would justify the maintenance and the management. Also, in talking to the city planning department, after they recommended the RM1, like I say, I would prefer RM2 over 1, but I'd rather have RM1 over just residential. We also discussed the possibility of going back and making it commercial neighborhood, and I've talked to Rocky about that, and he said that he would prefer commercial over RM2 3-story apartments. So depending on whether the RM1 apartments will make money would depend on whether or not I built it. And then if it was RM1 and it would not make money, then I would probably go back to the planning department and ask for a commercial zone of neighborhood, commercial neighborhood. And like I say, it's adjacent to Sam's, which is CG. Rocky's development is already adjacent to some RM2. There's a 150-foot telecommunication tower right across the road. There's a water tank that's over 50 or 60 feet. And as far as being right in front of the school, it's down from school. It's in front of the parking lot that where the teachers go and park and park their cars during the day. So I would still prefer the RM2 if possible. If not, I would prefer the RM1, and I really would like to get it back to commercial, but I don't think that's happening. Thank you.
Well, I think, did you just say, Rocky, you wouldn't have a problem with it going to commercial neighborhood?
Correct. He had mentioned storage buildings
or
light shopping center, which the traffic would be much lighter, 9 to 5, come and go as they wanted, single story. So yes, I recommended actually the RM1, which I thought gave him a lot more categories, but the RM2, I was okay with the RM2 if we could limit the number of stories to it with some type of conditions, or even the RM1. let him have RM1 if we could increase the density to like 144 units from the 125, give him his 19 units and leave it as RM1.
Can we do that, Jeff?
He would have to essentially seek a variance from the 25 units per acre, which would effectively change the underlying zoning, basically making it like an RM2, and it's listed under variances that you basically have to apply for a zone change.
We don't want to do that.
One thing I would mention too is self-service warehouse units are a conditional use in an RM1 and RM2 zoning district. So if you zoned it RM1 and it wouldn't work out, he could then come to the planning commission and ask for, the apartments aren't going to work or what have you. I'd like to try to do self-service warehouse there. So the RM1 is pretty flexible. It also allows for townhomes, zero lot line homes, and patio homes of that nature. So if the apartments won't work, it also allows for single-family residences with accessory apartments or just single-family residences. So it's a pretty flexible residential zoning district with that limited commercial opportunity for self-service warehouses as an option.
Okay.
Well, we could just table this too for further information.
I think we need to table it and find out if Greg needs to do his figuring and see if he can do it. Or he can just push it forward and see if we deny or pass the RM2. I think he's the one that probably should decide this.
And there is a year, if whatever we decide, you've got a year before you could come back. Am I right on this, Jeff?
Correct. It's going to be a year unless he asks for a more restrictive zone. So he could come back and ask for RM1 tomorrow if he wanted to, and you could consider it at that time after going through the notification and hearings.
We do have a motion on the floor for RM1. Is there anyone on this council who wishes to second that motion?
I would ask Rodney to think about changing his motion to table it for the time being.
I'll withdraw it and table it, and I would like to hear, because I want to make everybody as happy as they're going to be. I don't think somebody's not going to be happy with this. My biggest thing is, you have a resident that's coming here. I wouldn't want a 3-story there either, right behind my house. A 2-story, I wouldn't want a 2-story either, but there have to be apartments located throughout the city, and we have to allow them to go into certain areas. So my argument again is Rocky bought that property, his 100 acres back behind there when it was all zoned single-family residential. If Rocky's willing, if he's he's not willing, but he would be accept the RM1. That would be what I would think would be the best. But I'll table it. I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll make a motion to postpone till we can receive further data.
I'll second that.
Any other further council comment on this? Any further comment from the public? If not, yes, ma'am.
Another question I have is what about water? Because we're having so much problem with our water. If we put in 175 more more apartments, how much more water is that going to take? What are we going to do about that? I lived in Austin when they built these kind of buildings, and the water restriction was really severe.
Thank you. Mr. Wynn, do you have another comment, sir?
Yes. I hope y'all... My name is Bill Wynn. I hope y'all understand I think you do now, the problems that we went through with this same thing. And that's where I decided that, gee whiz, since the land space is going to be almost all covered up with parking and driving spaces, and these would be so far away that there's fewer units, fewer buildings on the property, that the 3-story might be desirable. Now, there's other things that could be done here. What's that about a planned development? Might be worked out. But we decided to go ahead and move it on along, frankly, and that's where you guys have got it now. And all I can do is tell you how we got to our situation, and I'm not pushing one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Bill.
Motion has been made that we postpone this until we get more information. So I'm going to call for the vote on this. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Then it has been postponed. Give you a little more time to work on it and come up with another plan. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one. This is number 13, consideration of an appeal of Planning Commission's decision to deny case numbers Z1329 and CU1319, requesting approval of a zone change from single-family residential RS1 to general commercial CG, and a conditional use to specifically allow for vehicle repair as defined in Section 315.1 of the zoning ordinance, subject to the approval of the zoning change, specifically at 2588 Armstrong Street, located on the east side of Armstrong Street, approximately 800 feet south from the intersection of Armstrong Street and East 28th Street. This property specifically occupies 6 acres from Tract 39 in the RS Long Bottom Survey 0027 Abstract 5735 in north central San Angelo. And Mr. Hines, you need to really get into detail and explain the intricacies of this, please.
Sure. We did send 11 notifications for this particular request. 2 were received in opposition, 5 were in favor. Here's a map of those as well, and the notifications were in the background packet as well. On this one, we did discuss the vision plan for this area last Tuesday, so it's an area that we're intimately familiar with. Per state law, staff must recommend denial of this because the vision plan is currently this particular configuration now, since the proposed amendment, which was denied at the council meeting last Tuesday. There's a few photos here, but as such, really the vision plan doesn't match this. State law mandates that you zone in accordance with it, so the request for general commercial at this time is inconsistent with that particular request. The applicant had requested to amend the vision plan and then submitted the zone change at the same time, kind of running them concurrently. It's a little bit not dangerous. There's no one actually physically in harm, but you run the risk of having the vision plan denied like it was last Tuesday, and then having this zone change not even legally being able to be recommended by staff, which is what has happened here. I can go in. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Marty, I think this is your area. You want to take it from here, sir?
Yeah, I've received a lot of comments about this, and as well, I received a lot of comments about the vision plan last week. And I really feel like we're encroaching too much in the into the residential section, even though there's a little bit of commercial across the street. I believe by far we're encroaching too much into the residential area. Before I make my motion, I'd like to hear comment.
Okay.
I'm against it. I'm against the zone change, and I don't think it takes but 2 votes, does it?
Yeah, it's going to call for a supermajority.
Correct. This is a supermajority item. Whenever the Planning Commission recommends denial of a particular case, 3/4 of the council must vote in favor of the amendment passing to overturn that denial.
Well, we can take public comment first, and then we'll take council comment. Let's have public comment on this. Anyone who wishes to speak to this, pro or con, this is your opportunity. Mr. Hubbard, come forward, please, sir. State your name, and you have the floor, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Clay Hubbard. I lived at 3721 Armstrong for over 30 years. I'd like to state that both my wife and I are adamantly opposed to this zone change request. I'd like to briefly state four reasons why. One of them is, of course, this property is in a neighborhood. It has 2 houses that are occupied on both the north and the south boundaries. Also, there's an issue of traffic on Armstrong. I'd like to kind of fill you in on what's happened. As you know, on East 28th Street, Blue Line Drilling has put in a big yard there. And also East 28th tees into the railroad, so they're using that to make access when they're fracking sand, bringing in sand in bulk. We're having a lot of heavy dump trucks with large belly dumps on them, or using that as access to get to the railroad. And also, with the increased activity on 2105, the commercial truck traffic has increased as a result of that also. And how this affects traffic on Armstrong, I want you to realize that Armstrong is an avenue for 4 schools, Bradford Elementary, Goliad Elementary, Lincoln Junior High, and Lakeview High School. The third thing is there's a little history of deception I'd like to bring up in this area, and that is that there was a request several years ago in the same area in the same entity for a tractor repair shop. The tractor repair shop turned into what I would call a junkyard, junk cars, junk trucks, junk buses, and a lot of scrap iron. It was basically an eyesore for the neighborhood. So the point I'm making is that if this was to be changed commercial, you open the window you don't always get a nice, clean business. The fourth thing, and the most important I'd like to bring up, is that we submitted a petition with 20 names on it of people living in that vicinity. And so I would ask that you would agree with those 20 people and vote to deny this appeal. And also I'd like to mention that it was voted down 6-1 on the Planning Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clay. Any further public comment? Anyone want to speak for or against? Then I'll take it to the council. Is there any further comment on the council? If not, Marty, I'm going to ask for a motion.
I move we deny the appeal.
I second that.
The motion has been made that we deny the appeal. That keeps the commercial entities out, that it leaves it as it is. If no further comment, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor to deny the appeal say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? It does pass by a 6-0 vote to deny the appeal. Next one is number 14, first public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A, zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo Baptist Memorials Ministry, and ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, which said Exhibit A of Chapter 12 adopts zoning regulations, use districts, and the zoning map in accordance with a comprehensive plan by changing the zoning and classification of the following property to wit: 902, 904, 916 Holcomb Street, 426, 428 East 8th Street, specifically occupying the proposed subdivision approved August 19, 2013 by the Planning Commission, entitled Baptist Retirement Community, ALMC Houses, Section 1, Block 1, Lot 1, being a replat of Cornix Edition Block 2, Lots 8 through 11 and 0.8 acres of the Michael Hemmer Survey 321, Abstract 355, in northern San Angelo, changing the zoning classification from two-family residential RS2 to multifamily residential RM1 district, providing for severability and providing a penalty. Mr. Hines.
Good morning. We sent 10 notices for this particular request, just to familiarize you with where it is. If you come off of Main Street heading north of the loop, it's just west of Main Street. Here's a closer view of the property. It is currently zoned RS2. There is some RM1 zoning across the street where they're currently underway doing a similar project. This is to allow for an assisted living facility on the property. Currently, this is an older photo. It's vacant at this time. These houses do not exist. The alley back here was recently abandoned, and the quitclaim deed was executed last week. The subdivision should be coming this way shortly. The zone change is the last zoning component of the project. They've submitted plans for review as well. The vision plan is calling for institutional. In this area, the RM1 zoning does fit that. It allows for the greater density and ties in with zoning across the street. Here's a map of the one response that we did happen to get in favor. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to go into and address those.
Mr. Vardaman, I believe this is your area. Would you like to take it from here, sir?
Yeah, I think that Baptist is going to improve the whole area quite a bit by doing this, so I'd move for approval.
Second.
Do we have further council comment on this item?
Question.
Question, Ms. Farmer.
These are houses already owned by Baptist Memorial.
Correct. They do own this property, and at this time it is vacant. Here's
So they're already
a shot. There's a
tax-exempt. Okay.
there's a fence kind of structure that's remain on this property, but at this time it's void of any structures that you could inhabit.
Do I have comment from the public? If not, we have a motion to approve as presented. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Put a 6-0 on that one, Ms. Ramirez. Next one is number 15, first public hearing and consideration of an ordinance, introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A, zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Z1332, Fleet Equipment Leasing LLP, and ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Texas, which said Exhibit A of Chapter 12 adopts zoning regulations, use districts, and a zoning map in accordance with the comprehensive plan by changing the zoning and classification of the following property to wit: an unaddressed tract occupying 25.822 acres located south of the Red Bluff Road and Hillside Drive, more specifically being 25.822 acres out of 96.314 acres of the Christoph Voigt Survey 181, Abstract 3931, and Carl Damon Survey 180, Abstract 141 in far southwest San Angelo. This property is described on the preliminary plat titled The Canals at Lake Nasworthy and occupies all of Block 6 and 7, changing the zoning classification from a ranch and estate, R&E, to a single-family residential, RS1 district, providing for severability and providing a penalty. Mr. Hines.
Morning. We sent 4 notices for this as well. One was received in favor. This is in far southwest San Angelo. I'll give you a little bit better view. It does border on the city limits at this time. It's part of a 96-acre tract that occupied what was once the power plant. The back portion of it, the applicant wishes to do some single-family residential and has indicated to staff, but hasn't turned in anything yet, to do more mixed use and commercial towards Knickerbocker Road. By default, when this was annexed into the city limits, it came in as ranch and estate. They're now coming forward to look to develop the property as single-family residential back in this area. This is something that Gateway Planning had presented at a council meeting a couple times ago as an overall concept for this site. This back portion would be in this area. The RS1, the lower density, does tend to fit that. And here's a map of where the person that was in favor of this particular request came from. And if there's any additional questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Mr. Fleming?
I have one really big question. The bathroom that's there on the park, what are we going to do about that? That's on their property.
It's my understanding that they've been working with the city, not me, but working with someone in the city to do a possible land swap with that. I'm not sure if that's part of this or not, but at this time their records are indicating they own that property and they've looked to rezone it.
Yeah, they clearly own it. I'm for this. I think this is be the best use of this, and hopefully we can get a swap done where we don't lose all that area. And plus, that park, really, if you look at the picture, the overview of the park, you really do cut it down to where there's just a little bitty tip where people could actually fish. They could go in there and fence that off or do something at the end there. You see how the park is, all the park is pretty big there. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the city a long time ago made a huge mistake.
It would appear that way.
Yeah, it is that way.
Mr. Fleming, we have had a discussion about a possible swap that would improve the situation for them and for the city.
For everybody?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
and I think it's on the other side, right? The canal kind of.
I'm not prepared to discuss the details of what.
Well, Russell's out there, and we've talked about this before, but I know there is talk of a swap.
I move that we accept the change as put forward.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Farmer?
I have a question. Is that area actually designated a park? Y'all are referring to it as a park. Is it actually designated in San Angelo as a park and listed as a park?
I don't know. I'd have to look. Since those are lake properties, it falls.
Well, the reason I ask is because there's, in our ordinances, we're prevented from selling anything that is designated a park.
We're not selling it.
I know that. That wasn't my question. I was asking, is that area?
In this case, if it is, I think that it'll offer us a little flexibility if we're just adjusting the boundaries, so we're not actually losing land, we're adjusting boundaries to accommodate that structure.
And the reason I ask is a few months or so ago on the developers, the recommendations, I just want to be.
And you're exactly right. Where there's dedicated parkland, it becomes more complicated.
Further comment from the council on this? I'm opening up to the public. If there is any public comment, this is the time to address it. There is no comment, but I will call for the vote. The motion has been made that we accept this as presented. It has been seconded. All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Put a 6-0 on that one. And now we move to number 16, which is the first public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A, zoning ordinance of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Z 1333. City of San Angelo Planning Commission, and ordinance amending Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the Code of Ordinances, City of San Angelo, Texas, which said Exhibit A of Chapter 12 adopts zoning regulations, use districts, and a zoning map in accordance with a comprehensive plan by changing the zoning and classification of the following property to wit: 5237 South Bryant Boulevard, located approximately 700 feet south from the intersection of the South Bryant Boulevard Frontage Road and Kimmery Lane. This property specifically occupies the Parkview Acres addition, portions of blocks 9 and 10 being 3.0966 acres in southern San Angelo, changing the zoning classification from ranch and estate R&E to office commercial, CO, providing for severability and providing a penalty. Mr. Hines.
Good morning. Again, we sent 5 notices for this particular request. None were received. This is in far southern San Angelo where the loop meets South Bryant Boulevard. The property is located here. There is a church on the property at this time. This is a better view of the property. There's some heavy commercial zoning, and we'll have an abandonment over here as the next item as well. There's RM1 zoning, RS3, and some CG zoning in the area. Directly adjacent is a heavy commercial zone as well. The property is zoned ranch and estate at this time, and has been since it was annexed into the city limits back in 1987, I believe. An aerial photo showing the property. There is a parking lot below that's covered by the trees in the summer photo. I can get into this further if you'd wish. The vision plan is calling for commercial development in this area, and this will allow the church to expand into the future as well without going to Planning Commission for a conditional use and get them the signage that they desire.
I think this is Johnny's area, isn't it? Since Johnny's not here, I have no problem with this, and I will move that we approve it as presented.
I second that.
Is there any further council comment on this? I open it to the public. Is there any comments from the public on this? If not, the motion has been made and seconded. The motion is to accept it as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Put a 6-0 on that one, please, ma'am. Number 17, first public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance authorizing abandonment of a public right-of-way for County Road extending approximately 400 feet northeast off of Link Road immediately west of the Concho River Estates. Block 34 in southern San Angelo is an ordinance providing for the abandonment and closing of the following street segment to wit: an approximately 400-foot by 60-foot street segment situated approximately 2,600 feet northwest of the intersection of Link Road and Cristoval Road along Link Road, immediately west of the Concho River Estates, Block 34 in southern San Angelo, authorizing the conveyance thereof to the abutting property owners, providing for the terms and conditions of abandonment and conveyance, and providing for the mayor to execute and deliver a quitclaim deed to the abutting property owners. Mr. Hines.
Good morning. This is the last time you'll see me. That might be good or bad depending upon how you look at it. This is the area here. Similar, the church that we just discussed was right across the street, so I'll skip over the maps. This is a it's on the plats. It's a county road. The original plat was from the 30s or late 20s. It's just on there when TxDOT acquired most of the land to put the loop through here. The county road became somewhat, it doesn't actually go anywhere. It has not a lot of chance to link up with anything. The property owner here had recently done a plat and a zone change in this area to do some development. They've done a lot of work on the site. They're looking to incorporate this property and do something with it into the future. We sent this out with the other abandonments to the different departments. No one really had any concern with it, and there's not a lot of need for it. Staff and Planning Commission did recommend approval of this abandonment.
Is this yours, Rodney, or is this Johnny's?
Yeah,
okay,
it's
then
mine.
you take it, please, sir.
I'm in favor of this. Go ahead and move forward as presented.
We did just have the 2 conditions that were approved with the commission. We'd recommend you do as well. AEP wanted written confirmation that the transmission lines won't be affected. They may want an easement, but the property owner needs to work that out with AEP, and that our engineering department just wanted a survey, so when we go to execute the quitclaim deed, we know exactly what's being abandoned.
Right. So I move that we accept it as proposed.
And add that to it? Very well.
Well, no, that's on there, as proposed.
Very well. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further council comment?
Are these abandoned properties given to the citizens without compensation?
There is compensation required. There's a formula depending upon if easements are reserved or not. When easements are reserved, in this case it's unimproved, we'll take a look at the adjacent land values and then figure out the square footage of what's being abandoned. And there's a formula per square foot that they will then give to the city, and I believe that money goes to the general fund. I'm not sure on where it goes, but there is compensation for it that the city does receive.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further questions from council? Public? If not, I'll call for the vote. The motion has been made that we accept it with the amendments as proposed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Let's put a 6-0 on that one. It is 11:09, and we're just about through with our agenda. I guess we could go ahead and act on number 19. This is consideration of approving a board nomination by council and designated council members. A is the Fort Concho Museum Board, Joe Spano, SMD 6, to an unexpired term, January 2014. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Motion has been made. Further council comment? Is there any comment from the audience? If not, motion has been made. Do we approve Mr. Joe Spano? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The regular city council meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 2013 will be held at 5:30 p.m. This will be the first night meeting that we have, and we would like to fill the house. So for those people that have to work, this is your opportunity to attend a city council meeting, and we invite participation. And I suppose at this time I will take us into executive. That's about the only place we can go. Let me read this executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, Exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under Section 551-0741 to deliberate the evaluation and duties of the city manager. And I have pulled the rest of that so that it no longer is there. Section 551-072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property regarding Red Arroyo Hills. It is 11:11, and at this time I take us into executive. It is 11:47, and I call the meeting back to order. Item number 18 is consideration and possible action on matters discussed in executive closed session if needed, and there was nothing discussed. There is nothing to talk about, no action to be taken. The next one is announcement and considerations of future agenda items. If anyone has anything, I know you had some, Rodney, and we'll just go down the line here and everyone can add in.
I had said this last time, and I would like to just add two different things. One, I'd like a update on the Arroyo Hike and Bike Trail and where we stand on that, and a presentation on that. The second thing is we're going to do a presentation. I should have the video and pictures to you this week, Alicia, on the gun club road out at the lake, and wanted to discuss the walkers and joggers that are going around there and the problem that it's become.
Marty?
I just had two. One was talking about some traffic problems we're having, and I've already given that to him. It really doesn't need to be an agenda item. And then also I want to make sure that we don't let the lease renewals for our land to get those to fair market value. We probably need to have those relatively quickly so that the ones that are renewing at the end of this year, those people know what to expect.
What lease are you talking about, Marty?
The lease land that we have that we've leased to
The stuff
the
along
lake,
the river.
the land, the river property.
Lake and river.
Yeah, lake and river, that we've leased to homeowners and everyone else. We pretty much made it was pretty much consensus that we needed to get those up to fair market value.
Have some consistency.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I just asked the lady upstairs to pull those leases out for us and have them available for us.
Great.
These are the recreational leases, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all, Marty?
Yes.
Ms. Farmer?
I've got a few items. First of all, that it doesn't have to be an agenda item, but I would like for somebody to look at the weeds and the mesquite trees that have grown up there behind Sam's in that water, what's supposed to be a containment center. Got some pretty good-sized trees there, and it's pretty unsightly. I don't know who's responsible for it because directly behind them it's mowed, but that to the side isn't. We could do that. And with reference to streets, I do want us to seriously take a look at Twin Mountain that cuts across that Knickerbocker, to bring it all the way around to Sherwood Way because of the traffic congestion that we have in the residential area right out there and down Southland. It truly needs to be looked at for widening, and because of all the commercial activity, and people are skipping through there, Green Meadow or Southland, to cut out the lights and the traffic to get to Sherwood Way. So if it's traffic counts or whatever we need to look at and what we need to look at, I would like for engineering to present us with something. Also, I would like to see on the agenda and a presentation on charts to show us the nature center, the actual cost and the operation, and what since we're at the end of the year, we should be able to have that for one full year, and what it's costing us and what maybe the future plans are. I'd like to see that. Also, I'd like to see the budget and line item of the Public Information Office to see what we've been doing this last year with reference to expenses. It's not identified in our blue book as charged out, so I can't find it there, but it would be nice to know what the plans are and where we're going based on what we've been doing. The other item is fund balances. At the end of the year, we're here at the end of the year, and of course I don't have October, but what do we do with fund balances? When at the end of the year and there's fund balances left, what do we do with them, Michael?
Well, a fund balance is an equity position, and it stays there, and it can be used for particular projects or expenditures. Generally, we think in terms of the phrase that's been coined lately is rainy day fund. We generally use those to ride out negative financial seasons or experiences.
So each department doesn't start off with a zero. It could have a fund balance in those departments. Are you telling me that you transfer it out and move it to a different location?
Well, it's not done by department, it's done by fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, those individual funds, each fund has a fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not a good fund balance, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it is a good fund balance. So there are a variety of financial experiences. For example, this year we've got the restrictions set up so that we've got water usage cranked way down, and we're just not selling near enough water. And we've got, I think, a $2.8 million loss in the water fund, primarily because we have not sold water. And so what started out as a close to healthy fund balance is going to end the year in a less than healthy fund balance, and that will be a future topic for discussion. On the other hand, the general fund should see a little bit of improvement in its fund balance. So I'd love to be able to have a discussion about that either in a small group or here.
Well, I would like for us as a council to discuss fund balances. And my preference is that each department starts out with a zero balance.
Charlotte, they actually, and I want to clarify, and Mike can correct me if need be, but like whatever, in a department that's funded by the general fund, the department does at the beginning of the year, they go back to whatever's in the budget. They don't get to carry those forward. So if they end up in the positive, it goes back into the general fund.
I understand.
Okay.
But I want to see what those departments ended up with in a fund balance and what they ended up with this last year. I think we need to know, and if there's money there that wasn't used, I would like to see us get in the habit of maybe then dedicating those funds to someplace like the fort for things that they didn't get as much budget or didn't get as much money and they needed things done, or something like civic events, improvements out at the Pecan Pavilion, that the fund balances could be used for something like that and then dedicated. If we could just look at it. I would like to look at it. And the transfer ins and the transfer outs, explain that one more time. Or next time you can explain it to me when we do it and when it's necessary. And then also I noticed in the blue book.
Hang on, let me make a note of that. Do you want a presentation on transfers?
Yes.
Or do you want to meet sometime and let's talk about it first?
Well, if everybody else understands them, then I guess I'm the only one that needs schooling, but I think the public might need some schooling. They would be interested in what transfer ins and transfer outs are.
Okay.
And then I noticed in just about every department, there's a miscellaneous, and then you get down to the bottom, there's an other. And boy, there's some pretty healthy others in some of them, 53,000, 68,000. That's an awful lot of miscellaneous. Shouldn't we be, can that be detailed better?
Absolutely. It's always a question of how much time do you want to put into it versus the balancing act of cost benefit. There can be lots of detailing done. The question is, does that additional information yield enough benefit to offset the additional cost to do the work?
Well,
and we'd be glad to discuss
each
that.
one has their own different account number and or item number that it's called in there. Each one of those, what fund they are to, and I, for one, would like to see the information.
Would you like us to get with you and talk about what kind of detail, or would you also like
that'd
a
be fine.
presentation? Okay, we'd be glad to.
There again, a presentation would be good. The public seems to be very interested, and I think we should take the time for it. You know, the evening meeting that we're having would be a great time if there's a lot of folks there.
Well, the discussion of transfers and the discussion of miscellaneous could occupy half an hour to an hour just for those two items. So it'd be a question of what kind of time do you want to spend in a public session, and what kind of pace do you want to cover this ground? Are you thinking?
A workshop would be nice.
I love the idea of a workshop.
Okay.
And actually, that would be we could cover lots of budgeting and financial ground in a workshop.
Just because the year's just beginning, it's never too soon to start.
I agree, absolutely. Get an early start.
Thank you.
We'll follow council's lead on that. I do have a question on Public Information Office budget detail. Would you like that delivered in a Friday packet with a follow-up if necessary, or would you like
I want it on the agenda. I want
You
to
want a
look at
public
it.
meeting?
Yes.
That it?
I have one item on my mind. I'm anxiously awaiting the mayor's pilot ordinance, and I'd like to see that, but also in connection therewith, on the Storm and Floodwater Fund, I saw $132,000 in the budget at the very end that looked suspiciously like a pilot program of its own. In the Storm and Floodwater budget is about $132,000, and I'd like a report on that so we can decide whether or not the council might want to include a pilot prohibition on the storm and floodwater on the mayor's other pilot. And
Very good.
that's all I have.
Mr. Barton.
I was, of course, we've talked about the half-cent sales tax, and I think that's already ready for a future, or headed toward a future agenda. I just want to keep that on the forefront, along with a discussion that Michael and I discussed a little bit as far as stormwater and kind of dovetailing into Winky's ideas about what we can actually use that for, what we want to use it for, what the bare minimum is as far as meeting the regulation set forward and what we're doing.
All right, Ms. Farmer.
We didn't, this is the first day of the year for us, but I didn't see any reimbursements from or COCDC or on the amount paid for water exploration. When can we expect to see that reimbursement?
We have already prepared a letter and forwarded it to Bob Schneeman, and we will process it through their work through their process.
Okay.
Our plan is to book that as a receivable as of the end of the year, as a pending item, and we'll book it
End
as a
of
payable.
this year or end of last year?
End of last year.
Okay.
We got that done before the year end, so we just got to work it through the COCDC process.
Rodney?
One last thing that, for me anyways, is that I'd like to thank Shane and Carl for how beautiful the Riverwalk is being right now. I've been walking down there a lot and jogging, and it is unbelievable how nice the Riverwalk looks right now. And if you, as a general public, haven't been down there, you really need to go down there and look at it. Also, a reminder, the Riverfest is October the 19th. We would love for everybody to come out there on that weekend and make a good showing for the opening of that.
Anything else of future agenda items? If not, the next meeting will be on the 15th, and it will be at 5:30. We need an executive meeting on that day?
I believe
Staff?
we do. We do. There was an item that came up today that needs to be talked about. I don't remember what it is, though.
Can we handle it in an hour?
Do you remember what it was? I don't. I'm sorry, Mayor, I don't remember what it was.
Well, we can meet up here at 4:30, if that is convenient for council. We can do our executive meeting first, and then we'll be ready to go at 5:30 for the meeting. Is that all right with everyone? All right
Yes.
on the right wing? Left wing?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's just plan on the executive at 4:30 and plan on the regular meeting at 5:30.
Mayor, if
Yes,
it
sir.
turns out that it's not necessary, or if it's an item that can be handled in relatively short order, we
Okay,
will update you.
let us know. That'll work. Let's plan on 4:30. If it can be done at 5, then we can change it. Any other business? Then I'm waiting for the motion.
I move we adjourn.
I second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Meeting is adjourned.